like a sibling rivalry over there or something. I don't know what's going on. It's so ridiculous. And did you hear the thing about the laptop too, John? It was like he had it like handcuffed to his arm. He's like, you can't take this from me. Never, ever. But hey, guys, we're back on the desk. It's DarkZero versus TSM. My name is Stokes. That's Blue. And, well, guys, this is our last game for Playday 4.
Hopefully should be a bit more of a competitive one here compared to some of the other matches we've had today. But even with that, it's hard to quantify how these two teams will perform given the very mixed metrics we have at the moment for TSM and the lack thereof that we have for DarkZero. Only one match on tape. For them, to be fair, it went fairly well as they took a victory in their very first match. For TSM, though, it's been two polar opposites. They've taken a loss to OXG and then have bounced back and have had an absolute thrashing yesterday in their matchup that they played there, able to take that one on a new map, Bank, with no issue whatsoever, and clearly showing their opponents in that one, Beast Coast, that maybe it wasn't such a good idea to go onto that map so early. DarkZero not going to make the same mistake. As a result of that, we end up on Oregon for the second time today.
Now, this is going to be a lot of fun. You and I just cannot get off the doubled up maps recently. I don't know what's going on with it, but either way, as you said, we're on to Oregon. I like that DarkZero's gotten it down to this, especially up against TSM. Obviously, Canadian just working himself in. They're going to be bringing it to a pretty strategically heavy map and one that can have heavy influence in that way. So you definitely want Canadian in the pole position on a map like this. As for TSM, as John was talking about, we saw them dominate Bank yesterday in one of the quickest matches I've casted in quite some time. So to have them here on Oregon could be a pretty crazy thing. Be able to slow them down just a little bit. We'll see what DarkZero will be able to do, but we're going to jump right into it, folks. And the craziest part about this is that DarkZero will be starting on offense, so going to have the we'll just say the less tantalizing side.
Yeah, we'll see how this works out. I think, if anything, this is a bit of a simpler move to go to this map compared to Bank for Canadian, more than anyone else here, as he doesn't have to worry about...
Well, depending on the era, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll have to see. But for the most part, this map is somewhat played out for a lot of teams, so I think there's going to be a generally fairly good awareness between the teams about how exactly they'll play into their strategies, and that will make Canadian's overall job, since he's still fairly new to the role for this team, a little bit easier. Anyway, we have the bans going on now, though. Nothing out of the ordinary, and in fact, a big one there is DarkZero is going to ban out a Rooney. Seeing quite a bit of play from her, but usually she's not the direct target of the bans. This will be a bit of a first.
Yeah, you know, and obviously that's going to lean into the catcher as well as just, you know, the limiting aspect of her kit overall. It's not just the fact that you have to give up utility to pass through it. It's also the fact that you have to take damage in order to do that as well. If you want to try and transition, it just forces a funnel more or less, as well as with the ability to reset them. That's just something to look into. So either way, that's going to pull away from that aspect. The other things you have to worry about here are mostly the Flores ban here from DZ. The reason that I was kind of humming about that is that DarkZero is starting things out on offense, so they're pulling that away from themselves, which means they have another idea of how they want to handle this. We'll have to see what they want to do with their utility. They're going to be bringing quite a few throwables here. Remember, Twitch is also going to be rocking those smoke grenades as well for Hyper, and having the F2 on Hyper in general is a really good selection. And like we talked about before with SSG's offense on this map, they're really leaning into the frag game. They're not going to have as many as we'd seen on SSG. They had 6. This one's going to have 4, but they have Zofia, whereas previously SSG did not, as well as Habana was banned out, and she carries 3 stuns as well. So they have plenty of utility to get through a lot of the different aspects of this TSM defense, and with a Rooney off the table, they really only have to worry about Jaeger Romai, just like the good old days.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we missed it in the pregame, but we are going to give it to you now. It's our community poll for this matchup. Two of the most clutch players in the Rainbow Six North American League are facing off now. Will Chala or Hyper have more 1vx wins in this matchup? Go ahead and submit your vote here in the Twitch chat, and we'll have the results a little bit later on with Veli and the rest of the desk. Let's get into the round, though, as things have started and DarkZero are out across the board.
Okay, so TSM will start things on the mid floor as of right now, at least for Bolo's sake. Merc will be playing forward on the stairwell here, but chooses to back down. Probably not going to see anything too crazy out of DZ early here, just simply holding onto these staircases, but I'll hold my breath, John. Hyper's well aware of Bolo holding an angle inside of Z, and he'll remove his head for him. It's one of the earliest bloods that we're going to have here on Oregon today.
Certainly the easiest shot to connect either, but the job is done, beautifully done by the members of DarkZero here, able to already negotiate a kill against Bolo. Hyper making very quick work to pick that up, and Now the rest of TSM has to be a little bit nervous about how to proceed from this point forward. They've
Oh, he
lost
had a
the full-
drone in there.
Mhm.
He just drove the shock drone up the staircase. That's so unfortunate for Bolo.
So Bolo gets caught by that. Now things already looking a little bit uneven here for TSM. Despite that, though, at least Achieve still trying to leverage aggression from the defensive end. More so to deal with the drone than anything else in that specific scenario, but looking to see if they can get something. Unfortunately, probably not going to be much, though. They certainly can't afford to lose an additional player by trying to delay things away from DarkZero. So they might just have to wait for the eventual execute, which at this point shouldn't be coming in with too much delay at this point. DarkZero has literally nothing standing in their way except for the hatches and the eventual work that they'll need to rotate down the stairs themselves.
Well, so far, TSM not respecting the play from Hyper. I mean, the initial kill coming out, but that obviously was just very well done from Hyper. But they also knew he was Twitch at that point, and they didn't respect the Twitch drone. They're going to end up losing their Goyo shield here inside of the laundry space. That'll make things just a touch more difficult for them in trying to swing out and deal with these freezer players. They're still going to have the position from inside of the closet to be able to play off of, though, as well as being very forward inside of the freezer hall. This will be backed up with Geo on Clash, and he'll limit a lot of the potential DarkZero aggression coming through this area, especially with that shock, but the execute seemingly coming through now. Nitro Cell out will take down NJR. Hyper will trade it out. Those Pamazoo gets one as well. Hyper will double back. He has to pick up that case, but they're going to slow things down for just a second here as they continue to search onward. There's only 2 members of TSM remaining with 40 seconds left, but make that one as Geo will falter. The last remaining member is Chala, inside of Elbow.
A 3-faceted attack coming out here from DarkZero, and at the moment, working pretty much flawlessly for them. TSM does not know how to handle it, because they don't respect the initial pressure at the very beginning of the round. They were already fighting for back foot. It didn't necessarily help in this situation to have the clash already starting things from the 4v5 pretty much in that regard, and then losing a player to be able to make these gunfight odds even worse for them. These are going to go down onto the ground. DarkZero very much in control of the situation as Chala will try to get himself back on the case and find a surprisingly free amount of real estate in the area, but not so free of an actual counter defuse. He'll get taken down as he walks up to the hatch, and DarkZero will succeed in claiming the first attack here on Oregon.
It's actually pretty incredible how fast DarkZero are moving. I'll be candid with you, especially with Canadian coming in on such low time. The fact that they're clicking this quickly is pretty incredible. But obviously, Canadians had quite a few of these people around him on his team prior, especially with like BC, taking up the helm of this, but playing around a handful of these other people as well. In the past, not team-wise, but obviously just knowing of these people, especially people like Eclipse and things along those lines. But either way, it's just crazy how fast this team, especially Canadians' brain is moving in this sense. They're able to clear out Freezer immediately, and right after they get control of that, Canadian realizes that really all they need to get done past killing Bolo and starting to take that space is have some pressure on that laundry room area, and Hyper gets that done almost immediately after it's more than likely calm. They get rid of that shield. They know that the execute is more than likely going to go down in this area, so they don't waste any time. They don't get it down to like 20 seconds or anything. They actually start throwing smokes into the initial site area at about like 45 seconds. It's very early in the sense of siege terms. So for DZ, this is very quick moving, and it's just a dagger to the heart of the TSM setup.
All right, so let's see here now. It's TSM going to try and look to control their first defensive round upstairs, and see a bit of a different flair onto the site for them. A lot of the same things coming out for the attackers, specifically that we're still going to have the Twitch in the fold to try and knock out some of these swarms of utility. Obviously, the Twitch drone is at a slight change, but that mainly it can jump now, so a little bit more traversable, able to sneak those in there and hide them, and we've been seeing quite a few teams entertain more of a Twitch option, although that not necessarily being the reason as to why they've done so. She's been being picked already quite an increasing amount, as Stokes was talking about in our last game. Most, if not all, of the operators in the pool are finding a healthy amount of selection right now, so leading to quite a few operators that you would not see even 6 to 12 months ago, leading to them being picked quite often nowadays here, as quite a few more options are viable with the way that balance has gone. Achieve going to get spotted out the opening 30 seconds of the round here. That will force him back, although not entirely, just to the next room, as he'll go over to kitchen from cafeteria instead of going all the way back upstairs to the site.
Yeah, they've been doing a bang-up job recently with the balancing characters, and it's really opened up the playbook for these professional, setups. And it's just been really interesting. It's made it to where, the game's interesting to watch again just for the viability of strats, just because there for a little bit we were so stuck in our ways of utility and the fact that we had to burn everything, and that if you didn't bring this min-max setup, you were going to lose the round. And in fact, it felt more or less like year one Siege, where Thermite dies and the round's over. Well, if you lose enough throwables, it's also over. But not really the case anymore. That can still obviously happen every once in a while, but that's just how the game plays out with the utility in the first place. But now they're about halfway through this. Achieved has delayed some time here inside of Kitchen. We saw him put that cam inside of Cafeteria as well, so we'll have some info to work off of around this island position. Hyper's going to end up getting marked out here, as he'll shoot one of these alibis. DarkZero still have plenty of time to be able to get some control around this area, but they have to deal with Achieved. Eclipse will get taken down here as they haven't been able to really get a spot on him, but finally the pinch comes through. TSM fire back though. They'll take down Pambazoo, at least Chala will, from the hatch upstairs, and now DarkZero, for the first time here, will be put on their back foot.
Great team play, at least able to trade things out in head fashion here for the members of TSM. Going to potentially risk that even further here now as NJR peeks through the Mav hole over to the edge of Attic. Not going to find anything peeping its head back out, and it's a good thing under these circumstances. TSM could have very easily caught themselves a Maverick kill. Brought DarkZero's execute down to a shell of its former self. But instead, Hyper, going to trade out the drone pretty quickly against Merc there. Be perfectly happy to accept the trade for intel for a player and even things out once again, down to a 3v3. But this is the tough part here now for DZ, as they're going to try to work their way into big windows. There's a very obvious obstacle in the Toxic Babes blocking it off, and there won't be an easy way to stop that from happening. Nitrop from Bolo. Way too late, unfortunately. No one from DarkZero going to get tripped up by that one, but still holds things back for the pivotal few extra seconds they need to bring it down to sub 20. Let's see how the execute goes.
No.
Bolo.
He got it.
It's a split push instead. Bolo will not be overwhelmed. Geo will take out the play from Canadian, and now NJR at big window is the only attacker left. And it won't stay that way for very long. Geo shuts it down. TSM quickly exchange for a 1-1 scoreline.
Well fought by both ends right there. That 3v3 could have gone either way, especially with those stuns lighting up Bolo in the way that they did. Almost were able to take that fight, but unbeknownst to DarkZero, Bolo was in that space. They rush in there, and the Thermite's just not aware of him in the default plant position. They end up getting taken down. TSM with their first successful defense. It'll be on the top floor after DarkZero are able to bide for some space around big window as well as white stairs and try for an execute off of some smokes. That's going to lead us into a laundry room supply defense. TSM heading down here once again as GL 6 pick away from the Valkyrie and bring Warden into play.
With Warden adding himself into the fold, hopefully going to be able to fend off this all-in execute we saw from DarkZero in the previous round. But DarkZero also going to try to make things a little bit more complicated for themselves, or rather, a little bit of an extra lattice to this matrix going to be added into the team here. As they're going to bring a Glaz into the fold on Hyper there, hopefully to negate out what Geo is bringing to the table in the Warden, meaning we could have ourselves an interesting little smoke fight between these two if we end up getting to that point in the round. But a few of those going to be brought by the attackers in order to facilitate that. Should be 4 if we are to assume that both Hyper and Canadian, I believe, brought their full kit.
We'll have to see what they're able to accomplish with this. TSM already having somewhat of a different idea on the areas that they want to play inside of supply. This is a very forward Goyo shield here, but that's going to cover most of the default plant area as well if it does indeed get popped. But they're going to have to remember that, actually, not this time around, as I was over looking at my notes. Hyper's actually brought Glaz here. Did not notice that one.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is actually going to be quite interesting because this is basically going to be Hyper up against Geo. Who can see the other one first through smokes? This should honestly, I don't know what else to say. I mean, outside of that, DarkZero is going to be able to outnumber the smokes, obviously. They're going to have 4 here, but Hyper really just needs to stay alive to have influence. I don't exactly know if this is going to be for post-plant or what have you, but we'll have to see as this round continues on. The biggest thing right now with Hyper not being on Twitch is that that's somewhat limiting in their opening frags, as Hyper's currently 4-1, and he's looked dang good inside of these opening minutes.
Very, very slow here from DarkZero, and that's in pretty big contrast compared to the last round where they instantly got themselves started, but obviously had an opportunity to do so. This time, not so much the case, so they're waiting to see if that opportunity will present itself, and if not, they only need that final 30 to 40 seconds to really make the transition from the top floor down to the bottom. But obviously, if they can fish out some of the utility in the process, that would be great, but for the most part, they are just biding their time until they reach that point in the round where they will be forced into the execute here. trying to see if anyone else on TSM side of things is going to throw anything at them. And obviously in the process, DarkZero are spending quite a bit of time setting up their drone work too, so that when they are finally ready to make the transition, they have as much info as humanly possible. Just seeing the last bit of hatches getting opened up now, and then we should be good to see DarkZero start to make that play downstairs.
Still interested to see what they're going to do with Hyper in this space. They haven't given it up just yet, obviously. Usually that's going to be the, Hyper shooting his rifle or something like that, because the report is very unique, and obviously Glaz's rifle has not been reused in Rainbow Six Siege just yet. It more than likely won't be, just because of how signature it is to his kit overall. So Geo going to be playing in quite the forward position right now here for Laundry. He'll be the first line of defense, and this is going to go back and forth. Again, here it comes, folks.
Smoke wars.
The duel. They can see each other. Which one is going to hit the head first? The smoke's still here, and now it's been given up. Geo is well aware that there's a Glaz on the other end of this smoke that more than likely has the full thermals lined up here. Yet another one dropped in. Geo's going to peek out. He'll lose his noggin as he peeks directly into that holographic of Hyper. He'll re-up on the smoke as the execute should be coming in soon.
They know the threat is no longer going to be there from the other side. Still have to be cautious of toxic babes here. We can see one getting into Hyper's face, messing him up a little bit as he tries to carry forward and clear out the utility closet leading into Actal side. No time left here for DarkZero. They're going to have to force the play forward here now. First plant attempt being made. The Glaz does have the counter, but apparently not. It's going to be Bolo to take out the first planter. Two trades immediately found. Now we need to see someone try to put the case down once again. Will they be able to do it? The numbers are drowning, and Achieve's still alive. And with that, though, NJR will be able to start putting it on the ground. He can't finish it, though, although the spray gets him very, very close. TSM will still run that timer out with the elimination of the final player from the attack and win the round.
I think I saw that correctly. I think NJR actually ended up downing Canadian while he was planting. I think the grenade got cooked a little. Yeah, he cooked it a little bit too long and tossed it in the room, and one of the fragments ended up hitting him. So that's super, super unfortunate. I thought he got down by the smoke there, but then he didn't die. So I was like, okay, what exactly happened? But either way, I like DarkZero's, attempt here. This is all for Hyper to just have Overwatch on Canadian and cover the closet angle as well as the laundry rotation there out of supply room, and just make it really difficult for the defenders to try and step up and duel there because they can't see where this plant's going down, and obviously Glaz is going to have the advantage there. So DarkZero go for it, but TSM play it out really, really well, especially from Chala's position, as that smoke play was paramount to the success of that defense. Very well done from them as the scoreline sits at 2-1.
So TSM in control, although only slightly at the moment, with a 2-1 lead in their favor. Looking to make it 3 as they finally go to their tertiary site. Struggling, of course, on that first round, but quickly rebounding. Now looking to make the full 3-round run here with 2 more chances to repeat some of these sites afterwards, if we are to assume that things continue to go well for TSM. For DarkZero, in the meanwhile, still going to see a fairly straightforward amount of utility brought to the table. The Maverick mainly to deal with any attic presence and just upstairs presence overall. Still have your usual bit of hard reach for Canadian to access the to access the kitchen or the backstage walls, and then away from that, soft breach and utility and anti-roam still for there on Hyper.
And Hyper playing more of a flex position here on Oregon. This is going to be the third operator that he's had here. TSM with a forward position here inside a tower will be Geo locked up with 3 ADSs, so this is going to take a lot of the utility out of DZ's hands. But as we talked about before, they have quite a bit of this to expend. They just want to keep a decent amount of it to be able to clear these hard-to-reach positions on site, but this one overall going to be pretty difficult anyways. You can see Geo already has a lineup through the top floorboards if anybody does want to try and swing through that, and since this entire staircase is now concrete, where once upon a time it was not, it's a lot easier for him to hold on to this space. He's also got some help, I believe, inside of meeting if anybody does try to come down low, so we'll see if that swing comes through. And yes, indeed, he'll have Chala here manning the doors and at least making things tradable if it goes awry.
And obviously the intel going out against him. He'll try to deal with Geo now inside of that position. Chala as well will fall back, though, pretty much immediately after the same fate has had of the actual tower player itself. Opens up a path forward here for DarkZero, but how strong of one will be the question. With TSM falling back, should be, of course, the usual staging ground to use. But let's see where they can get from here, because this is only the first step of a very long chain of events the DarkZero need to complete in order to get themselves onto the site. The next one, more than likely, going to be dealing with the player at the back of Attic. As you can see, the deployable shield already gone for Bolo. Only has that pixel angle on the wall to play from, and won't even take that. He's going to fall back further, look to delay this fight for as long as possible to limit the execute time for DZ.
And Pamba actually going all the way to the west side right now, so he's more than likely going to try and slip in the back end here quietly. You can see how far away all of these players are, so any sound cues like breaking a barricade or anything like that, it's going to be either extremely muffled, or no one's going to know about it at all except for Geo, who's now shifted all the way over here, seeing if anybody was in this space, and he's going to hear the window now. There's actually 2 members over here, and Geo might be able to play spoils from this shower position. Pambazoo's got a drone to clear out this space, so they'll more than likely know he's here now, and yes, indeed, they'll find him, and now they are indeed prepared. Remember, Pambazoo's got somebody in tow here, so Geo more than likely going to die, and yes, he will, but not before he wastes so much dang time on both ends of the map, and also, even though he's died here, TSM now know that there's 2 people over in this space as well, so the offense has been split up, but the angles are just so beautiful for TSM. They'll be able to continue to work these door frames. Bolo's got solid positioning upstairs that he's been able to hold on to for the entirety of this round. He'll continue to add on to the kill tally. Bambazoo will fall. Hyper's going to dust as well here as Achieved will take him down. It's a 4v1. Make it a 3v1 now, as this is more than likely a TSM round. Chala will make sure that's true, as they'll take their third.
TSM with just far too much control throughout far too much of that round. The members of DarkZero, you confused with Canadian on that team now. Members of DarkZero, unfortunately, only able to get that attic play to work off of, and never really able to put their best foot forward to get the rest of the second floor and move beyond that so that they could actually move on to the site. TSM then absolutely dominates when the actual gunfights begin, because DarkZero has no choice anymore. They're forced into the site due to a lack of time, and it goes the way you would expect. TSM with a 3-1 lead now in their favor, and like I said before, we're going to start making reruns of the sites they've already picked up as a result of that flawless run of the sites. They go upstairs to Kids, the first one they've already run, and we're going to see a Frost pick brought in by the man himself, the Frost main, or not really main, but Frost player, Chala, who we've seen pop off many times with this operator.
Okay, well, this time around, the application's going to be different. DarkZero have to attack the top floor, which is going to present a whole swath of new issues. They're still going to have the double smoke setup here from Canadian and Hyper. Plenty of explosives on DZ's end across the entirety of the remainder of the roster, as well to deal with anything else that they really need. Obviously, the 2 sets of frag grenades and Pambazoo carrying 2 of those breaching charges as well, or breaching rounds, rather. But DarkZero looks set up to at least be able to handle this. Once again, I will just point out that Hyper's not going to be able to get too aggressive, so they're going to be leaning into other people to achieve that. We'll see how that goes, but it'll more or less be getting rid of a lot of these different utility standpoints that they have set up. More than likely the one in Trophy, the first to go. TSM is going to show a decently aggressive front here towards the west-hand side. An early drone here from Eclipse, but it actually doesn't enter the building, so don't believe it's seen achieved just yet. He's over in the cafeteria area, and Eclipse is going to start droning towards this way, but as they've cleared out the bottom of Small Tower, don't have to worry about all too much, and seemingly aware of his positioning in general. We're going to see the Z ping through the wall here now as DarkZero begin working this. Looks like they have 3 members around this area, as well as some lobby possibly going for Master here in a little bit. Some bodies outside that area. So DarkZero do not want to step foot in this building without a good eye as to what's going on, and honestly, you can't blame them. You saw what TSM's initial plan was, so this is just very respectful of what they've been able to do thus far.
Minute gone from the round. DarkZero, like you were talking about, they're still giving a lot of respect over to the side of TSM. Allow them to maintain this control here as DarkZero looks for the best option to start taking some for themselves, and that's going to have to start with the elimination of this player on the inside of Kitchen. Valkyrie Cam gone, Eclipse hoping that he's not going to be revealed as a result of taking it out. Having to be cautious, of course, of an aggressive swing to come from the stage hall down to the left side there. You can see that silhouette moving back towards tower now. And JR, in the meanwhile, looking to try and get the actual meeting control for himself, but no, Bolo still on the inside of security here, causing problems for the clearance squad. Panba is going to fall to him. It's an addition to the one that's still on the inside of Kitchen, too, and that's Merc. There we go, him himself causing issues there. And JR will be able to trade out the security player, and Bolo, he goes down. Puts the control slightly back into the favor of DarkZero, but not by a whole lot. Still going to be down a player versus TSM here. And TSM with their out-and-about positioning Still leaves a lot to be controlled by DarkZero before they even begin to think about moving upstairs onto the site.
Achieved, a lot to deal with here. Has one at his immediate kitchen door as well as security, but Merc still adding up the kill tally here. It's a double kill for him on the round, and now Achieved, we run into some trouble, but luckily the soft breach there doesn't end up extending too far where Hyper can actually see him. They're playing well into the bodies right now. Merc able to get this headshot. No, the PMM so strong it's going to take him out in a singular bullet, but since Hyper is indeed on such low HP, might still run into some issues here. This is going to be a couple bullets off of his potential here. Obviously, him and Canadian still both up, and Canadian still has smokes as well, so they can still abuse Hyper's kit to its fullest potential. Still looking for these picks around the entirety of site, but TSM are doing a very, very good job of delaying. Issue for them right now is that they don't actually have utility to do this, so they're going to have to do it through frags instead. That's going to be pretty easy for Geo, as he'll pick up a second one as well. Canadian has to try and get the refrag, and TSM get round 5.
The defensive control stays in play here as once more TSM come out on top of a round. Obviously, a bumpy start to things, but ever since round number 2, they have been dominating with 4 in a row now. Looking to make it 5 on the final round as they'll go back down to the basement for one final engagement, as it's their only real choice here, unless they wanted to go to the second first floor site. Not really one they're probably too keen or even rehearsed on playing, so going to avoid that and head back down here. This is where they've had issues, though, against DarkZero's attacks. So let's see if DarkZero, once again, using the glass apparently, or maybe not, to make this work. Looking like a 6-pick. Let's see if it actually goes through. Yeah, gonna bring the Ying in. Not really too surprising there, like we talked about when she got banned out in the last match we casted. Ying has become a mainstay for burst executes or for attacking teams on this map, so that's not gonna be too much of a surprise to see Hyper switching over to that.
And mostly specifically this site. I mean, we've seen her other places, obviously, but this site especially is just Ying's paradise, because you almost have the exact situation that everyone thought of when you first, when Ying first got released. There's a hatch inside of E-Box. It's very, very safe to play from up top. No one can truthfully peek you. There's 2 doors on it, and you can just drop your Candelas down and let them roll in. It's almost the perfect thing for somebody like Ying. So this Candelas are going to play heavily into the execute here for DZ, and who better to have it on than Hyper? I mean, you're giving the guy an LMG that barely has any recoil, and more than likely his opponent's going to be stunned. I can only see this going in a positive way, but so far TSM's been really in the way of that, to say the least. Their defenses have been high octane so far, really limiting DarkZero and what they've been able to produce, and now achieved actually with a very forward position here onto NJR, but NJR is immediately going to vacate the premises, so they'll be able to at least drone this guy. Some good positioning here, but I don't know if the Jaeger saw it. Oh, Achieved, you're going to be in hot water. NJR is going to be able to get the drone out, but Achieved will be able to make the move in that sense as well, sensing there's more than likely somebody that'll come through and get a big frag onto him soon, but it's actually Bolo to take out Hyper first, and well, the Ying's off the board, so no more execute utility when it comes down to that.
Yeah, that's a huge first pick for them to be able to get for themselves. Even some respect coming out from Hyper himself, as Bolo's able to line that up. I believe Merc probably acted as a distraction while that happened there and allowed for the swing to come in. That or just caught him at a moment of opportunity. Either way, it will be negated now, as things will be traded out. Obviously not to the same effect in terms of operators removed, but in terms of player count, things are back on even turf now. But without those Candelas, it's going to be a rough execute here. Just your usual utility in soft and hard destruction. In order to get onto this site, you're not going to have Flores to deal with any of the on-site utility. You will have the Ash charges to do so, but obviously those present their own issues and how imprecise they can potentially be, and actually needing access to be able to see them for a second one. So let's see now how DarkZero can work this without the Ying, but obviously some renewed vigor here, taking down Achieved in those past few moments.
I mean, I think we can just type it into the chess engine that is Canadian's brain right now, and just bee-boo bebop, he's going to figure this one out and try and get them an execute set up here. Hasn't had the best scoreline thus far, 0-4-0 right now with 0 plants, so has to be pretty sad about that one, but they've been able to at least get a plant on the board here in the likes of Hyper, but he's been doing it all today across the board here for DZ, so not having him might present more issues going forward. Well, 50 seconds remaining, DZ has to get something done. Stun's down now for Canadian, but he's just checking to see if there's any utility there that there's still needing to be cleared. They're going to dump a nade down here, which will eliminate Merc's shield that he had in a forward position like we saw before. I was trying to hold on to that default plant that we usually see go down inside of supply. More frag grenades out now for DZ, as there's still plenty of utility to try and clear, but TSM, they're just giving them the work. So Nitro sell out, as well as a frag from Bolo, but finally Pambazoo will fire back. This is actually going to knock us into a 2v2. This is what we needed to see from them earlier inside of this half, but I'll take it now too. Pambazoo is going to be on low HP, so this could be a pretty easy kill for Merc if he tries to go for the swing here. He's got both. He'll be able to down one. He's not going to go for the second. Make him sweat, make him bleed, and make him walk into Chala. Very forward round there from TSM. That's going to bag them the last one of their half and split this at a 5-1.
Stokes, I'm pretty sure that like we have only casted like 5-1 and 4-2 halves this entire week so far.
Yeah, yep, yes we have actually, and I don't know what's happened since last week. Like last week was pretty entertaining, and then this week everyone's just like, yeah, I just really want to get home. I got to see the wife and kids. I don't really know, man. It's like you know what it feels like the speed level. Did you ever watch the original Fast and Furious movies when they hit the NOS and everying just turns to warp speed? That's what it feels like.
They turn the FOV up by like 20 or 30 degrees, right?
Yeah. It's like boom. And by the way, that is not how NOS works, in case anyone was aware. So
you don't break the space-time continuum when you use NOS or whatever the director
there's
in that
a
movie
massive
wanted you to think
explosion of you
happens.
breaching the sound barrier. You know what I mean?
All right, so enough about fun movies. Let's get back into it here. The setup, again, looking at the operator lineup at least, isn't going to be super interesting. Should just be your standard basement play from DarkZero, as they're looking to get their best foot forward here with a win, obviously, at the outset of the second half. See if that can be done. Meanwhile, on the attack, we've got an interesting pick for Merc, obviously, there. The Finka being brought to the table. Let's see how this very uncommon choice, I think that's one of the few operators we talked about where she's still not getting picked that much comparatively to the rest of the pool, but obviously today that's going to be a little bit different as TSM feels she's useful in this scenario.
Yes, indeed. We'll have to see what they're able to achieve with her. We've been seeing this at a couple of different places. I actually didn't end up watching this game, I'll be honest with you, but when I was rolling through the CGG stats for EUL a little bit earlier this week, I did see that Empire actually had a full game where one of their players, their primary offensive operator, was Finka. So it's been played recently. I don't know exactly how successful it has been, but...
my memory's awful for specifics on stuff like this, but I know, for example, during the Mexico Major, someone brought Finka out during one game that I remember casting as well. Like I said, the memory escapes me for which team specifically this was. Might have been Empire, one of the other EU teams. Imagining it might be a little bit more relevant there in that meta, but here for NA, it's a very rare sight to see here with a very low pick rate to accommodate it. So let's see how it will be useful for TSM under these specific scenarios. DarkZero not throwing out a whole lot of aggression here in the first couple moments of the round. Obviously, you've got the back stair position for Panba. Away from that, though, no one even getting close to anything aggressive against TSM, and the second Panba is spotted by a passing drone. He will give that play up on the back stairs and just play for the pillar spot.
Quiet minus some bullets flying around Oregon right now, but obviously those not really tagging anybody up. It's TSM still trying to get some work done on this mid floor. They've gotten a decent amount of control. At least they've got some pointed areas that they can hold on to right now and limit DarkZero from going for these rotations, and that's really what they're looking for in the first place. TSM, though, they're going to get their first freebie here as Hyper's just sitting in open space inside of construction, and this is going to be very easy for them. Just put a drone here, nobody can hear it because the barricade's up, and you'll be able to find a kill because of that. Eclipse will try and get up and forward in this position, but now with the crossfire setup here from DZ, they're limited in the way that they can actually attack this now, although they've already gotten the frag, so TSM not too worried about this. They're more than likely going to start splitting up this defense and forcing them to take a multitude of different angles all at the same time. Smoke grenades now out to try and slow down this construction hold, but the stun grenades are already pouring in, and Canadian's actually going to get lit up right inside of Khan's door. He's going to take a frag grenade to the face as well. It's not going to kill him just yet. Another one out onto Pambazoo as well, as DarkZero are literally fighting a full-on war right now. Eclipse winning it out as well as Canadian, and finally, it's a sea of blue, but Bolo, he has something to say about this. He'll be able to at least muster one, but he still has to go for three.
Although chucking an 8 around the corner should be an ADS, yep, to defend against that, so not going to be able to allow it to go through. Bolo going to have to look for another avenue in. Ace not under his control right now either. It does sit on the ground very close to him, but that's not the priority right now. No way he's going to be able to sneak off a plan in this situation. It's going to be all kills all day once again, and unfortunately for him, he walks right into the kill box set up by the shotgun and the SAS operators, looking to play this one out towards the timer. not interested in an open duel versus Bolo there. Things go DarkZero's way to start with, but will they continue as they move to other sites here now? We're at a 2-5 scoreline, and DarkZero is at least alive here. About a comeback, though, we'll have to wait and see if they can bring it all the way.
Well, the Finka pick wasn't a fluke, but we haven't passed the 6-pick phase just yet, so I would hold your breath, but obviously they could still always lock it in. As for that offense, TSM are able to at least get that initial frag onto Hyper, but past that, once it gets into the execute time, DarkZero's angles are simply too harsh. They overwhelm TSM on the entry, and it gets all the way down to Bolo so unbelievably quick. And I mean like less than 5 seconds, all of the TSM members minus Bolo are on the ground. So TSM now, with this round presented to themselves, hopefully they can get themselves an opening frag like they did the last time just to start themselves off. This top 4 should be a little bit easier for them to work as it's a touch more open in concept as opposed to the basement setup, but we'll have to see.
So let us see if DarkZero is going to be able to continue to extend their comeback a little bit by picking up yet another round here. Once again, no surprises when it comes to the operator lineup. Obviously, we have the alibi pick for Hyper, but that's not super uncommon to see. Gives that player specifically a little bit more freedom in this situation. And the utility, as we've seen more and more, has found its use inside of the meta. Usual utility mitigation, and any other bits of utility going to be brought out aside from that too. Most notably the Goyo, obviously looking to get those shields in the way of the main push coming out through games, as well as Master to try and slow things down. If anything, just by the explosive radius, but obviously through other methods too, especially if our defenders can find success peeking from said shield. Let's see what TSM are going to be showcasing us, though, inside of these first few seconds of the round. They're spawned out, and Bolo is already rappelling his way up to try and start dealing with Hyper, who's looking to cause some problems in T3.
Oh, I absolutely loved that. Hyper setting up top with his Prisma initially just to see if somebody ended up getting marked and he could get a possible freebie off it, but instead chooses to back off as TSM are definitely around the entirety of that area. Does not want to try and take a multitude of gunfights in that space, as that is a losing battle. TSM, though, have to clear out this top floor now. And yeah, this is going to be more frag grenades here for TSM. They're bringing a set of 6, just like we saw from SSG in our last game. But obviously, the Finka's still along for the ride. Now, the thing with Finka is that she's pretty unique in the way that she works. She has a bunch of different passive abilities, but the one thing that does get in a lot of people's way, in the sense of, you know, just play overall, and the reason that pros really don't like her is that it actually takes away your recoil. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's a really good thing, Stokes. Why would they hate that? Well, it's because they've practiced it for forever. You know what I mean? You're so used to... Imagine like any other game where you're playing with like an AK or something. You have a spray pattern, and then immediately that's gone and the gun just shoots straight. It's the most weird thing to try and deal with. And speaking of weird things, this angle setup here for DZ is not going to work out. I really like this setup initially. I'll be really honest with you, with the shields being played in towards the master door area and making it where TSM really can't try and work that space, but Merc with a big pickup onto Pamba here.
Panda being found out. We've seen this before, however, but now there's the trade once again. Canadian lurking in the basement for so long, finally able to pick up that trade and once again bring us back down on the even terms. Suddenly the advantage TSM had now gone, and just like the last round here, not a whole lot of map control to build off of just yet, although that is starting to change. You can see them beginning to move in here. First lurks, anyway, from them to start taking that master control away. But with less than a minute left, you have to be worried for TSM's sake to actually get the full job done here with such a limited amount of time. The same problem they ran into back on that last round. They're trying to work their way in through construction and eventually the electrical hatch to find basement play. Here we go, though. Arsenal control is theirs. That's a wrap into the main connector and then out onto the site. They were a little nervous of taking direct control of Master, too, for some reason, but that fear has now gone away. Everybody's in position, ready to move out, but will it work with only 20 seconds left? Here we go.
They don't have anything to block LOS here, John, but they do indeed have stun, so they'll be able to flood it in a certain sense. Bolo's going to get some solid position, and he's just going to go frag, and he takes down it close, but immediately fired back here from Hyper. He's going to take the pistol out to try and achieve something here, but nothing's really going to get done. NJR instead will be able to go for 2. He's not being able to stop the plant here, but actually, no, the plant will be stopped. I don't know exactly where it was going down there. I thought default for just a second, but I believe it's the attic door, I'm assuming. Yep. It ends up where that was going down, but either way, DarkZero once again get away with this site-centric defense after Canadian especially with a big pickup there that slowed TSM down quite a bit.
So not enough time to clear out the site, specifically the position in the back corner there where our pivotal player from DarkZero was able to turn things around, take out the planter, and anybody else that was pushing the site in those final moments. A little bit nerve-wracking for DarkZero as well. They still had, I believe it was Panball off-site playing to, I believe, an angle to lurk in against the Execute also. So in the event that we saw the site set up fall to pieces, as you said, due to the fact that most of the defender utility had gone away, was an opportunity there for TSM to sneak their way, and I think with a slight player advantage due to that off-site member not being in the fight. However, ended up not being too big of a deal because of that limited amount of time. And as a result of those issues, DarkZero will pick up a second one here, looking to run their way up all the way to 5-5. We'll see if they can get that job done. We did have to take a quick tech pause. There was another HUD bug, I believe, for Merc. We have since fixed that. He is reconnected, so we should be starting in just a moment.
No HUD bug this time. Just the mute one that takes away all of your audio.
Oh, it's the mute one. Okay.
Yeah. Dude, you don't need audio to play Rainbow Six. Come on. Just be better at the video game.
You can just sit there and play with it for every single round.
I'll be honest, it's better than the one where if you get off of a mute, or not a mute, if you get off a drone at like the proper time when someone like breaks a barricade, or if you die at the proper time that you break a barricade, it'll constantly just make like this chunking noise of the barricade breaking, and it doesn't go away unless you reset your game.
Yeah, I've heard that one too.
Yeah, not a lot of fun. Not a lot of fun. But either way, we're back into this one, folks. And I'll be honest, I really liked the setup last time around from DZ. I know we talked about it mid-round about that shield setup and how it really didn't work out too much with Pambazoo stepping up and getting peaked. But the thing is that it also slowed down TSM quite a lot, because you still can't try and get extremely forward with the position of those deployable shields without taking some heat. They're able to get trophy, but past that, it was just difficult for them trying to push forward, and that's why TSM had to do so in such aggressive fashion, especially for the kids player, because if they don't, they lose the round anyways just off of proxy. I mean, he's got smoke grenades and everything else. He's going to be able to stop that plant from going down, so you have to try and overwhelm him, and the M590 is just really strong in that position. So I love the overall strategy for DarkZero and how they played out that round, because it really took it to TSM and what they wanted to do with the map just from the jump. So now into round 9 here, we'll see if DarkZero can continue their reign of terror here on the defensive side.
All right. DarkZero once again in prime position to continue excelling, but this is going to be the toughest site yet here. A lot more interworks come into how a defender needs to successfully hold off the play from their attackers, and this is going to be the toughest challenge for them as a result of that. We can see the extension pretty much for the entire team on DZ. 3 or 4 members now holding upstairs towards attic, and by extension the area around the dorms as well. And we'll continue to see those positions maintained throughout the entire round. You can see Geo moving in to drone all of that out. Achieved as well, already getting some back access from the small tower to move himself forward. But even with that under their control, that's only a very small first step. A lot more work needing to be done, as we can see here from Bolo starting to move into that second floor, but nearly battled out of it by a player across the way over at the tower as he goes down to half HP.
Very similar setup to the top stairs defense that we saw from DarkZero, but obviously this site not in the same spot. It's going to be meeting in cafeteria, or rather kitchen and cafeteria instead here. DarkZero, at least for Eclipse's sake, will be very forward upstairs, and he's definitely got the kit to be able to play this position as well with that shotgun SMG-11 combo. John, you and I have talked about the SAS operators before and how damaging this kit can be, even at range. That was across the entirety of Trophy. He one-shots Bolo, and Bolo still had quite a bit of HP from that previous fight, so heck of a blast there from Eclipse that ends up bagging him a big kill here, and they still have to clear out this top floor, and past that, he still has 2 cross angles here. He's got Attic to worry about, as well as one other member, I believe Pambazoo, to his backside as well. This is really damning to TSM. They have to try and do something about this top hold, because it's going to be difficult to try and get a plant down here.
Shala continuing to move forward now. Get himself positioned a little bit closer to the site here, and in the meanwhile, with less than a minute left, we're going to start to see TSM move past positions without fully starting to check them out. That was a problem for them in a previous round here, and we could very well start it to see it become an issue with Chala. He's very, very close to one of the members of DarkZero. Hasn't been able to figure it out. He hears the audio cues. He knows that the player is somewhere nearby, but he doesn't even realize that Canadian was still lurking over towards the classroom as well. He sneaks off another kill. DarkZero continue to maintain the player advantage, and TSM fall to 3 now as they're left with 30 seconds left to try and make the play forward and get onto the site. Achieve Chief can find nothing, and now he has nothing. Eclipse running the gauntlet up on him from upstairs, taking down Achieved, leaving only 2 running for the attack here. Merc running into some issues of his own as he tries to get onto the site, and so much so that he'll die outright. Geo does better upstairs, finally taking care of the positioning from at least one of the members of DarkZero, but once again, no choice but to frag this out. He'll run into Canadian in the process of doing so, and Canadian will end the round once again in the favor of DarkZero as they continue to come back.
Canadian goes from hard breach to Rome mastermind. This guy is everywhere across the map right now and constantly having some influence, whether holding an angle or getting a big pick when TSM isn't exactly aware. DarkZero's defenses overall as well, John, have made it so difficult for TSM to get any map control at all. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but these constant long angles are forcing TSM to have to play around this space and really respect what DZ's doing, because the moment that they don't, they're more than likely going to end up losing bodies. So for DarkZero, I mean, just stick to your guns. TSM are going to call attack timeout here, and this is definitely a big move here from Poge. If there was a time to do it, it would be right now. Now, for TSM, what really is the adjustment here? These longer distance gunfights really haven't came too much into play. It's just the positioning that's been threatening TSM overall, and DarkZero have been able to build off of that.
We're going to see the Finka come back into the fold here since we're heading back to the basement attack yet again. Shouldn't be too much of a surprise to see that come back into the fold. As you said, it's not a fluke to just bring that in and try it out. They clearly have a strategy falling behind it. It's just last time they could not make it work. Able to negotiate their first entry off of it, but past that, really struggling to get past those thresholds at the back tower stairs as well as construction to get into the site. DarkZero took the fight directly to TSM, and that plan worked out beautifully to cause a massive amount of chaos at a minimum inside that fight, and through said chaos, DarkZero was able to control it, pick up a huge amount of trades in their favor, and eventually shut down the site. We're going to see them bring out the cap can for this one, and Canadians bringing out all sorts of interesting picks here, as one more will be added to his operator count for the inside of this game.
Do you know who can, John? Cap can. Cap can.
That's like the easiest joke in the book.
Right there. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But we don't get to use it often. And just because it's an oldie doesn't mean that it isn't a goodie. But the thing about Cap can is that, you know, he's a really good operator. I'll be honest. We don't get to see him enough. But the thing is that to slot him in, you're going to end up losing something that is arguably more valuable. The thing that Capcan presents to you in the likes of his EDDs is that if, you know, TSM doesn't respect Canadian in the sense of either getting info early on him and just knowing that there's a Capcan on the field, someone's more than likely going to take just about half HP in damage. And then for the rest of the round, every TSM member has to stare at all of the doors that they're going to try and walk through. That's the reason that you saw Canadian putting those EDDs rather downstairs around the E-box area, because he knows that when TSM goes for an execute, they have to run through that. And what do you want to do as Capcan? Well, you want to be really freaking annoying. So that's what he's going to do. He's going to slap them right on those doors and make it to where TSM doesn't get to do what they want to do unless they want to either die if they're low enough HP or take most of their HP and damage.
You can see on top of this, DarkZero has looked to compound the confusion that they're going to cause TSM on this execute by adding both of the drone denial operators into the fold. Once again, so you've got Mozzie and Mute to accommodate a lack of intel for TSM when they finally get downstairs and hopefully end up running in to a couple of those EDDs, and through that, make a couple of the gunfights a bit easier to win out here by bringing those players down to 40 HP. Obviously a bit higher if they're Finka boosted, but we will see that when it comes to fruition. Inside of this first minute, mainly just droning for TSM, not a whole lot of actual fight taking or even clearing, save for the big tower that you can see over there, but I believe that is going to start to change. Panba, in fact, even backing away as he starts to notice the mav hole getting opened up over towards his mute jammer. Can't stop the mute jammer from being taken out. In fact, he might have done it himself on accident, but can still try to get a couple of shots into TSM here. Won't work out, though, and we're now going to see the stage wall get opened.
Did anybody see that charm on Panba's gun? Somebody at me on Twitter and tell me where to get that charm from, because it's like a little ghost. It's like a little. It's so cute, dude.
Very important information.
I'm sorry, I haven't seen this charm before. Hey, listen, man, I've looked at way too many of these things in my life. Okay.
It might be like a new one or something, or like one that's coming soon. Because doesn't
coming soon.
Doesn't this client get like all the stuff like earlier than it's supposed to be in the game or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, apparently it's from the Doke skin. Okay, well, pretty interesting. But you know what's interesting outside of that? TSM's already pushing into the side. They've taken down one, but Bolo's going to get refragged here from Hyper, and a very straightforward clear here of Elbow. They're just going to put a singular torch hole across the entirety of the wall, which is going to make it difficult for Closet to be played here, and JR is going to have to back off instead, because otherwise he'll be locked inside, and he won't be able to get his smokes out how he wants to.
Mark looking to circumnavigate the stage area just a little bit there, as he'll go to a different position to try and force himself forward. Once again, TSM are going to find themselves at an overall lack for time, even though they've been able to trade out the overall player counts here. Finding an issue getting themselves that one step forward onto the site, but Merc's going to make up the difference to start things off here as the team moves their way forward. Canadian has rotated into a power position of his own right on top of the hatch. And here we go. Jumps in the way of the execute, but he's caught just as quickly. Merc again on the back flank to make sure things do not go awry this time. But Eclipse finally taking care of that manager, bringing it down to a 2v2 and ultimately trading it out completely as Eclipse and NJR get the final kills. Once again, DarkZero's defensive setup stands tall in the basement as they pick up yet another round and bring themselves within one more of tying things up. No, in fact, no, they tie it up now at 5-5. I've lost track of the rounds too, apparently.
Well, that's because we've finally gotten a game, John, and that's something we've been wanting all day. I think Kixon and Taro wanted it as well, but we're the lucky chaps that get it here between TSM and DarkZero, and we might actually have overtime on the docket unless DarkZero has something to say about it. And, well, that defensive setup, it's just like we talked about. That is why Kapkan is annoying. They're not able to clear out everything on site, and even going down to the last frag there, Achid walks into the door, gets blasted for more than half of his HP in the last little bit, and he's just shocked. He's like, oh man, I just took damage. Oh, I'm dead. Okay, well, it's just very difficult in those last, very, close situations where things just get very, very, nerve-wracking, that, Kapkan can really have a large influence. So very well done from DarkZero there. As you said, they limit the information game as well there with the Mute Mozzie combo. I think overall that strat was just built extremely well, and DarkZero are going to continue it. They're going to go back upstairs, but this is a fresh-faced setup. Canadians now on Clash.
Canadian, like I said, continuing to add more and more operators to his overall count for this game. I think he's up to like 4 or 5 now, just on the defensive side alone. We'll see if he can maybe add some more before the game closes out. This is a strategy I believe we actually saw from TSM. Might have been in the basement that they were trying to use the Clash, but we also saw them bring it out at least once in the previous half here. It's not going to be too much of a far cry. Specifically, it's not going to be too uncommon to see it being used in this specific position, as I have caught it a couple of times in the past as well. Using the Clash to get in the way primarily of the garage clear, and you can see Eclipse in the basement there too, for the possibility of swinging up should the opportunity present itself to cause a sandwich to occur right there. However, plenty of other things could transpire from the Clash, and even this mute play as well, as it could just as easily block off access to the white stairs where Canadians drifting towards now, the big window, or even, of course, the master walk-in. But a little bit too late for that, as Merc is pretty much already done with it, taking full connector control just 40 seconds into the round.
Forward positioning now. Merkel might be able to do something, but here's the problem. Canadian exists, and I believe that he just saw him, but if not, be able to exist around that space for a little while longer, and that actually might end up presenting them a kill. But Canadians got bigger fish to fry, and it's mostly the players here inside of Big Tower. Wants to try and slow them down here and see if he can possibly get ahead of them, making this hole on the left-hand side. They'll obviously be able to achieve that, but just making sure that if they do step into it, they'll be able to have some influence over that. The other issue right now, though, is besides that, is this angle that has been created for Bolo. Really can't step up inside of the swamp area, that lower area inside of Attic, to try and fight that, because he'll already have the angle set up. So for TSM, they've actually been able to get some stuff done inside of this round without losing any bodies or taking damage. They've been working their way around DarkZero very well, but we know what happens when it comes down to this. Usually DarkZero is able to get something done on the roam, so to see what happens. Hopefully this frag grenade doesn't do too much, but actually it stuns pouring in, so luckily enough, not going to happen. And actually Eclipse will get tagged. I was very scared he was going to die through the floor there for a split second, but no, just a little bit of damage, and those frags... What?
Ooh, no. That didn't just happen, did it?
That did just happen. There's no impacts. He doesn't have an impact downstairs.
What?
Yeah, the frag grenade took out the X-Kairos through the wall. but they're still going to have plenty more. Don't worry about it, folks. Chala, the lucky thing here, folks, is that that's not an those are X-Kairos charges and not an exothermic. If that was an exothermic, that's the round right there. And I mean, I would almost be throwing my hat in the ring being like, we need to reset on that because that is absolutely ridiculous. But at least it's able to get the wall open. So TSM can still push forward on this execute, and they need to right now with 30 seconds remaining.
Oh, trust me, I would have been in the same camp on that one if that ended up being true, but thankfully they chose to bring Hibana this time, so let's see how it pans out as we get into the final seconds of said execute. Merc, and is going to be able to find one, but so far the only one against this lineup here. Chio is in the, such an unfortunate duel here, trying to knock out the Clash. More of a waste of time than anything. It's an eventuality that's going to happen. Achieve left alone here on the entry from the big window, but between him and Gio, they're able to make it work. Alone to move in, but together at the end. TSM finally negotiate themselves an attacking round just before they were about to lose the lead, and now they have a chance to close it down 7-5. Before we get into that, though, we are going to go into a timeout.
You got to make sure to use them. Don't want to end up going all the way to the end of the game and just not using them, John. That's a bad coach at the end of the day. Let's be honest. It's like we've used this reference before, but it's like being a coach in the NFL and going into halftime with timeouts in your back pocket. It's like, are you actually doing your job, man? Or like, what exactly is happening here? Because they're free. You know you don't get like a penalty for using these things, right? So DarkZero are going to use their tactical timeout right now, and they definitely need it. This is a round that's extremely important going forward, and they haven't even selected an operator just yet on our screens, folks. I'll start locking them in now, but just to let you guys know, it is going to be a meeting hall kitchen defense, so we will be going back to this, and this is something that we saw from DarkZero previously, where they were doing a really good job of holding onto the top floor. They got some really good initial damage onto TSM, which led into TSM kind of just getting bowled over on that top floor in general. We saw a really, really nice retake up there after DZ gave up the space. Canadian and Eclipse reconcile with each other and actually push up main stairs to take out the vertical player and win the round for DZ. So we'll see if TSM can try and get around that this time or possibly have a counter.
For DarkZero, though, only one more round is also needed for them. As you said, we'll see if this can be done over at Meeting Hall and Kitchen. Some interesting picks there, and some aggressive ones at that, with the Ella being brought into the fold. The Goyo, excuse me, I had a hiccup there. The Goyo is also going to be 6 pick, not to anything super interesting, but once again, compiles onto this aggressive setup that we're seeing right now here. Seems to be the case all across the board here for our defenders. Let's see what exactly the plan is going to be, though, as obviously things still need to be set up. We are very curious as to what the overall plan is going to be for DarkZero. Probably going to be heavy emphasis once more on that upstairs hold, as we've already seen in the past, though.
Also, in other news, we figured out which bundle it is, John. It's the Echo bundle, actually. He's got a nice little ghost, and Dokubi's got like a little ghost head with her logo on it as well for those respective ones. They're actually released all the way back in March. I, just didn't throw my wallet at the game again for like the upteenth time.
It's the Akumi Nakamura skins.
Yeah, that headgear is pretty sick, to be honest. But my Echo's pretty dripped out right now, to be fair, so I don't know if I'll invest. I might invest simply because the charm is so unbelievably adorable, and I'm an impulse buyer, so right after this, my credit card might be used with the 3 digits on the back, I'll be honest.
Well, while Stokes is busy browsing the store, I'll get back to the gameplay here, and we'll see if TSM can try to close things down in the final round of regulation. Now, obviously, if DarkZero wins this, we are going to go to overtime, but that changes the point totals these two teams are going to get. If DarkZero loses this round, they get absolutely nothing. If they win it, they're guaranteed at least 1 point on the standings. TSM won't be able to gain the full 3, though, from winning anymore. They can only get 2, and that's assuming they still win in overtime. If TSM wins this one outright on this round, they'll get the full 3, and once again, DarkZero will get nothing. Obviously, DarkZero looking to at least take it to OT, but if they can win it there, that's even better. Let's see, though, how the actual action is going to go. We do have the members from TSM starting to lurk into the building, but as you might expect, they are going to be busy dealing with the off-site presence before they even inch close to the site itself in meeting.
Well, as you'd expect, TSM want to play this close to the chest. This round means quite a lot, as this is the closeout here up against DarkZero, and this offense has been extremely hard fought. Just to get this round, they had to squeeze it out of stone practically to get DarkZero to finally break, but not trying to slow down just yet. You can see Canadian playing very forward here inside of security, not scared of a damn thing. When he has that M590 in his hand, he's going to pop open one of the doors here, make it to where there's a possible rotation for one of the players if they do end up up going all the way down low. TSM going to begin clearing things out on this top floor, but just remember, it is a mid-floor hold here once again. DZ going with something quite similar to what we saw the last time. Merc's going to end up taking some damage, but since he's Finka, he'll be able to give himself some health in a certain sense here, but it will deteriorate over time. But as of right now, TSM outside of that, haven't been able to do too much. They'll be able to pressure out the Attic player, but Eclipse still holding on to the space. He'll get droned out and more than likely TSM to follow.
Stims actually will sustain for himself there, so he gets a bit of a boost to right over
Nice
50.
shot.
It's not going to matter, though, as Eclipse just absolutely clotheslines him. With Bolo to be there, though, for an instant exchange. Same situation the TSM has faced plenty of times before. They evenly traded out down to a 4v4, but they are nowhere near the point they need to be for the actual execute here, so they're going to have to rush to get into position to make it happen with limited time. 35 seconds left here, clearing out the upstairs hold, but one of the members makes it further away. There's going to be causing some problems potentially from the inside of the basement, too. Panba trying to contest from Kitchen itself. Can't get the job done. The Nitro might be able to, but no, there's no hole in the softball there, so it falls short. Even worse than that, though, Hyper and Panba both going to be able to take players out. They're too late to stop the plant, but that might not matter here. They're wiping the floor clean. It's all fallen to Chala in a 1 versus 4. We're to wait out the timer now as we have put it into the attacker's favor. Chala waiting for the swing, but he's not ready for it when it finally comes out. Hyper shuts him down, and we're going to overtime to settle this one, ladies and gentlemen. DarkZero tie it up at 6-6.
Oh man, I am absolutely loving this. We haven't gotten close siege in some time here inside of the NAL, so it's nice to have an OT once again here. And since we haven't had an OT in a while, folks, we'll remind you of how this one works. Ours is a best of 3 rounds, as it is with the rest of everybody basically in the entirety of the world. But again, it is 3 rounds, and the best of 3 inside of that rounds is the ones who are going to take it. So it's the first person to get 8 rounds, and DZ will have 2 defensive sides, as TSM will have 2 offensive sides if we do indeed go the full breadth. DarkZero obviously are going to have the upper hand here. We just saw their defensive half, and it was very, very dominant, only dropping a singular round to TSM, but the same could be said back and forth. As for DZ, though, if we be taking this by the reins, they're going to head down low, as they're going to have a quick change-up inside of their operator list here, and Canadian will continue this carousel of operators as he's going to pick up Maestro.
Canadian's just having himself a good old time today, isn't he? Yeah. Over to Maestro once again, as I think we're going to fall more in meta line with what we've seen in the past on this type of a site. So going to be looking to negate the play as a result of bringing those Evil Eyes onto the field, and maybe some delay capability. More than anything, though, the intel against what is going to be another all-in execute, more than likely, from TSM. We'll be bringing a whole lot of actual nade utility to the table, but the Finka still in check for Merc to allow for that little bit of a boost, that little bit of an extra HP boost, which TSM is hoping will make up the difference in this very, very tight execution that often can lead to the defenders just completely shutting down the attack as they try to make the transition from the first floor down into this floor itself where the sites are going to be played. Round has begun, though. We've got Achieve very quickly barreling towards the construction entry, pretty much confirm that we're not going to see him just go right into it. He's just establishing a position to use now, and we'll, of course, come back to it later. But for the rest of the team, they have plenty more business to take care of up here on the first floor, so that's going to be their first thing to worry about here as Merc leads the charge, already approaching the freezer stairs.
Well, that's what we'd expect out of him or Bolo. That's what we saw at Bank yesterday with their high-octane offense. Able to take things to Beast Coast and just make their life overall extremely difficult on the defense. TSM, though, they're going to be showing a pretty handed opening, as we would expect. They do not want to try and just simply rush downstairs, although they have gotten solid positioning inside a freezer. But this is going to make Gio's life a heck of a lot easier. He's not going to have to worry about anyone trying to peek out a hatch or anything of the sort. They also got drones down here to cover that space as well. And DarkZero are going to be very, very patient. They got a lot of utility to be able to combat TSM, especially when they do go for this execute. I love the pickup of Hyper here on the Ella, and this is something that we've started to see very, very often down low, because when the executes come in, they come in hot and heavy. So you need those Grismots in their way just to make the offensive life a little bit more difficult, as well as, if you think about it, that's even more utility that they would want to clear at the end of the day if they do get a bead on it. We're about halfway through the round now, and TSM has actually gotten a lot done on this mid floor. Already quite a few of these hatches popped, and Merc's going to begin working freezer once again. Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
All
I was
right.
about to say, some trouble's taking out that magnet there, as it uses a
No
little
one
bit more
plays
ammo.
the spear. He's got a good excuse.
As he takes a bit of his magazine in order to get the job done, but the job is eventually done, and obviously not much of a consequence as a result of those extra shots. So things will continue to go perfectly fine for TSM as they begin to enter DarkZero territory. However, this is where once more I will begin to get a little bit worried for the members of TSM, but I'm sure they're not so concerned. They've run this hundreds, if not thousands of times at this point. They'll know what the procedure is going to be. NJR will actually get blinded out in the first push, and that's going to be a successful start to things for Geo as he takes down Hyper, but this other player lurking in the corner by the chassis. NJR, they're going to try to get the better of, but never mind, the better will be had of him. Canadian swings in, however, with the Alda, trades out onto 2 different players, but at the same time, Eclipse will just barely stay alive as he's fallen down to just a sliver of his own HP. We are even again as somehow DarkZero is able to negate these entries every single time. Canadian with a third one in here. The instant headshot against Geo's peak. Here comes the play onto the site. Panba shut down the first. The second is up next here as Merc is the only one left now with only 8 seconds left to make the play on the Finka in this 1v2. Canadian apparently is just offering too much on that Alda, but just as I say that, one of the 2 goes down, but no time remains. Canadian will clutch it out in the 1vx, and DarkZero go up on map and match point.
Yeah, I don't think he's that old. I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. That was so well handled inside of Fraser. You guys can see the energy. I wish we could just hear the amount of woos that just went off inside of that place right now. But what a round from Canadian. When they needed him most, that signal went up, and he was able to secure all the frags necessary to shut down TSM. DarkZero going to be on the offensive side this time around, and they're going to have Hyper back on the glass. So we'll see if the 6 pick comes in. The only reason I'm saying that is because we don't have Canadian on an operator that has extra smoke, so we should be seeing the 6 pick here, and they're going to give it to us. What are you going to go with? Oh, John. Oh, this is going to be fun. I'm so very excited. Lock it in, Hyper. Lock it in. The only problem is Hyper.
Game's going to lock it in for him.
It's not upstairs. It's downstairs. So you really can't fly through a window.
Dude, you know,
like
this is like some deja vu. Someone else made it a Rooney pick against a basement attack before too. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
trying to remember
did,
what
and you and I casted it, and I can't remember who it was.
I think it was on Chalet. I do think that was the difference, but still.
I mean, he could jump down the hatch and then get himself out.
I mean, yeah, he could. I don't know why he'd do that, but he could. I'm just sitting here like looking at the hatch positions, like, yeah, but
listen.
But why would
there
you?
was a guy in Bikini's unranked game that said that this is the best kit in the game. Okay, so you just got to respect that. All right, it's a G8 and SMG 11. That's all he needs, to be fair.
Now let's see if Hyper's pick of the let's see if Hyper's pick here is going to add something extra. The DarkZero here as they're going to try.
He better just fly on the top floor, otherwise I feel like this
Where
pick
is he? Where's Hyper at?
disrespected.
What's he doing right now?
I don't know, man. I don't know. There he is. He's all the way over here, and he's got a Jaeger. And
I don't see the Gara hook out yet.
Oh, well, the Gara hook's coming. Achieved shouldn't have the angle on this, but the thing is that he's a professional player and he's going to know that lineup. So I'm kind of scared if Hyper does go for that window. This one would be a lot safer given everything. I just don't want him to go for that 3rd floor one. Yes, that one, Hyper. Yes, that one right there. That's what we want. We don't want the top floor one, okay? I know we're talking to you through a screen right now, but I believe in you, and you've got this. I mean, hey, the delay's not... Oh, no.
Here we go.
Achieved?
Floor in.
He's gone. He's gone. Oh, thank the Lord. Okay, Hyper's safe, guys. He's going to make it out of this one. I was just really scared, especially with that positioning from Achieved earlier, but he's going to get droned out, luckily enough, from the remainder of DZ. So, I'll be able to keep Hyper alive when he does eventually fly in there. But that's more than likely all the Gara hook action we're going to see this round unless something crazy happens.
Like DarkZero winning, but we'll see here in a moment if no, that was a completely out of place joke. My apologies, but
solid
just didn't even really make sense at the end of the day. But
no, especially from their defensive side. But we'll give it to you, John. We'll give it to you.
Just more timing than anything. DarkZero moving their way forward here and are going to be opening up the hatch in just a couple of seconds. Like we said, no more action to come from the Amara, but that doesn't mean that the utility is going to be completely of a lack of assistance to the team overall. Hyper still going to have himself a very good gun to work off of.
No, they're not.
No, they're
not.
Two of them going down here?
No, they're not.
It stinks that there's no one on the other side of it, but still, we need to see the results of this here. TSM catches it, though. Bolo tries to fend it off, but it's not going to work. Merc and Achieve getting 2, but it's all going the way of DarkZero now. Geo, the only one left standing, as all of a sudden DarkZero burst onto the site and win the match all the way in OT to get it done, but they do it 2 rounds in their favor and take control.
Oh my gosh, that just felt so good to watch. That was so clean. That is one of my favorite plays of all time with Hibana. The coolest thing about Hibana is the fact of this. You can pop hatches with only 4 of those X-Kairos, and they don't do very much damage to you. We don't see it utilized very often, and in fact, back in the day, it used to only take 2 to pop the hatch, and I actually want to say it used to only take 1 as well, maybe, but I think it was 2, if I do remember this correctly, so you take even less damage. It was a pretty common thing, but what a move there from DarkZero. And this is what I'm saying when it comes to Canadian meshing with this roster. It's just happening so fast, and their playstyle is actually very, very different from what it was before. This is something we would have never have seen out of these guys. And I mean, what a call, especially in overtime. I do not think that TSM was all of a sudden ready to just have 4 bodies trying to take over site immediately after these hatches pop.
Canadian always giving us a show and clearly, making a difference for the team he is on. I was getting so excited, my dog even jumped up to take a look there as well in the final couple seconds. But yeah, DarkZero giving us another one as they're able to take control of that matchup and negotiate a win in overtime, 8-6 at the end of the day. And they will be able to take 2 points with them on the overall standings. Their opponents, TSM, at least being the first to make it to 6, will still get 1 for themselves, but the loss still will be present here in overtime for them.
You know, I'm trying to remember what the analyst desk selections were, but didn't we actually have like more DZ selections than TSM? Because
I forget, to be honest with you.
I mean that was a pretty hard call at the end of the day, and really for TSM, I mean, a heck of a game, but they just simply could not get the ball rolling when it came to their offensive side. And sadly, that was the biggest dampener on this. If they were able to really muster anything early on that half, this could have been a completely different tale, but clearly not. There is something special happening over at the DZ office.
As is seemingly always the case when you get Canadian on your side, we saw that same thing happening when Canadian moved from EG over to SSG, and now the very same thing could be happening for another new start of a new legacy. Once again, Canadian continuing to move his own forward, but possibly creating a new one along the way over on DarkZero. That's going to be enough for the 2 of us here today. We're going to send it back down to Veli and the rest of the desk one final time to break down this DarkZero victory.
Thank you so much, Blue. And Jacob, I think Stokes is right. I think that 2 of us chose DarkZero, and
I think so.
I can't
somebody
believe this.
who chose TSM again?
Dude, 5-1.
I don't know. Some resident Canadian squibbling. I don't remember what his name is. Jessica?
Yessie? I don't know, something like that. But ladies and gentlemen, with the highlights coming in from Predator, shout out to them. Yeah, we saw it. DarkZero, the new look DarkZero, by the way, looked really good in this win on Oregon against TSM. Jesse and Jacob, what are your thoughts?
They looked good, but they looked experimental at the same time. Like, that last round notwithstanding, we saw Glaz brought into a pro match in North America for the first time in a very long while, and then we get to that last overtime round, and it's just the most ranked thing you could have done. Hibana, Amaru, G8, 2x hatch drop and freezer. It looked so beautiful. You don't, like, look, this exact play right here on the highlights. Eclipse and Hyper are just in, and look at how much blue fills the kill feed over those next couple of seconds. NJR and Eclipse have the perfect cross, catches TSM completely unawares. That was a really good call by DZ, and wow, they're 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why we say Oregon is the most defender-sided map in the pool. I think both of those halves showed it. I think TSM definitely should have been able to get more rounds on their attack. DarkZero should have been able to as well, to be fair. But that overtime round where they were able to win with that round 14 hatch drop, I feel like we've seen that before from DarkZero. I can't remember the exact VOD when it happened, but I've definitely VOD reviewed a team doing that, and I believe it was DarkZero. Well done from them. That was a beautifully executed take, and when everything's on the line, right? Why not?
Right, and take a look at the stats right now. Both of these teams came to play, fellas. I mean, there's no one that was caught lacking at all. Eclipse and Hyper with 14 kills apiece. They're on the other end. Merc ran wild with 15 kills on his own. When it came to opening kills, opening engagements, it seems like TSM definitely got the better part of DarkZero, but still, Eclipse and Hyper had a field day on their own when it came to those engagements. But Jacob, overall, this game went to overtime, and as we know, when you take one team to overtime, they just about win every single time.
we were going to say that the DZ overtime curse was broken because they lost in Mexico, but I'll hold firm to this idea. DZ in overtime in the NAL is still very much alive, like it or not. You get them to overtime, they'll find a way to pull it out. And to TSM's credit, this game should have been over a lot earlier than it was. That's a 5-1 half. DZ pulled 4 unanswered rounds back before TSM were able to get very nearly 2. It was back and forth at that point. And then once we actually get to OT, DZ say, yeah, we'll do a semi-normal defense and then a crazy attack, and that's all she wrote, man. TSM looked good, but DZ are looking very innovative.
And Jesse, let's talk about the contrast between the two, right? Because you specifically wanted to talk about TSM's attacks, but I also want to hear your thoughts about how DarkZero were doing on defense.
Yeah, I mean, TSM, I think we're going very slow in a lot of their attacks. I didn't like the pacing. Part of it did come in from DarkZero. They played a ton of different setups on on all 3 bomb sites they decided to play here today. They started off with some standard setups, then they decided to roam when they were defending on Laundry, then they brought a clash when they were defending on Dorms, and even in their standard holds, they had Canadian like running around in the basement on a Dorms hold. I mean, they really did try a lot of different strats that I think did slow down TSM quite a bit. There were some more basic things I think TSM probably should have been able to go a little bit faster. Clearing out that top floor in a meeting hold should be relatively standard process. I didn't see anything too weird from DarkZero. That should have slowed them down, but still, they really struggled with those tasks. So probably a little column A, a little column B. I'm sure the role changes and the communication changes that are going on within the TSM team right now had a big impact on that. But yeah, that second half really was not shining bright for TSM, and DarkZero took advantage hard.
Yes, I have to ask this, Jesse. Are you sold on DarkZero yet?
I think so. I think so, Veli. I mean, they're
After
looking
not
really
picking
good
them, are
with
you finally
Troy.
on the train?
Okay, who didn't pick them in their opening showcase? Mr. Caliber, the Jacob.
I don't know. You're the one that has a shirt with my face on it. I win every time.
Okay. Fellas, we're going to get back to this. But let's jump right into the community poll. You guys are like brothers fighting over this, man. So for this
Old
series,
married couple.
two of the most clutch players in the R6 NAL will face off. Chala or Hyper have the most 1vx's in the wins today. Now, coming into this game, this is actually a really good question. Jacob, before I throw it to you, I mean, I would guess Chala automatically. Whenever we're talking about a clutch god or anyone that could win with their backs against the wall versus any amount of people, there's no one better, right?
I'm trying to think of like who theoretically would have
I don't
had
think
like the
either
most.
did.
I don't know if
I don't
either
think
had a
either had
1vx.
clutches.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, Chala now being moved into a support role means I guess theoretically he's in less situations these days to clutch. But we called him like he's our own resident clutch minister in Rainbow Six. So yeah, I think most people probably went with him.
Yeah, Chala was already in a support role. He was already often playing smoke and stuff, so it's not like he was out there playing aggressive operators. And Hyper was on Glass half the rounds. You're not clutching anything on a Glass, so I think Chala probably won this one.
I don't know, maybe some 360 emoji no scope probably could have happened with Hyper, but
Maybe.
this time around, Chala won in a landslide victory.
Dang.
74%. That is
TSM,
insane.
don't lose Twitter polls.
That's the power of having Bolo on your team, I guess. But fellas, let's talk about the MVP as well. Now, there's a few names that can come up. Merc just had a field day, but he was on a losing team with his 15 kills, I believe, and 92-93 costs. Eclipse with his 14 kills, Vertical with 13. Does any other names come to mind, fellas?
I think Vertical was the one that I was thinking immediately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Guys was 12 and 5.
Anybody from SSG? Was Skies the big
7-2,
player on
7-2.
SSG?
No,
Rampy
Rampy was the
too.
big player on SSG.
Rampy
yeah.
was a bigger one.
It was
wasn't
Rampy. Yes.
So
Yeah.
here's my thought. You give it to Rampy because that was probably like a tighter matchup on paper, SSG versus Astralis, or you give it to
sure.
Vertical because even though that was a slug game against Beast Coast, you can't really overlook anyone who ever like gets an above 2.0 rating, and he had a 2.06. So.
in the role that he was playing as well, it was like, you know, playing that position and also winning the game. I would personally give it to Vertical, but we're going to find out
100%
soon.
cost, by the way. Like,
100
that's just the greatest stat line.
That's just insane. So we're going to find out right now. All of us on the desk are kind of wondering if it is Vertical. I'm kind of hoping so.
Hey.
Let's see. There we
Yep.
go.
We got it.
Production is on point. Shout out to the production staff. They know the deal. Vertical will be your MVP for Playday number 4, and rightfully so, right? He's been an MVP for Oxygen as a whole. Ever since Stage 3 has started, Vertical's name has been on top of the leaderboards, and he's been leading by example as the OG with the best aim in the game. Jesse, it's only right to have Vertical standing right here going 13 and 3 with 3 opening kills and 100% calls.
I mean, how many times did Vertical just walk through the bomb site? That second round as well on games when, like, it was 30 seconds in and he was just in bar ordering himself a drink. I mean, Vertical somehow finds a way in and he somehow always gets those kills. He's been the best player for Oxygen this stage by far. He definitely deserves this nomination.
Absolutely crazy. Jacob, anything you want to say before we jump into standings? 'Cause I'm going to need your help for that.
Not Vertical absolutely deserves this, but if you want to look at standings, then let's break it down together.
Oh, brother, let's go ahead and talk about it. So, first things first, I mean, this is pretty much the regular deal right now. We know Oxygen are in the #1 spot, and they're not moving anytime soon. But other than that, Sonics, I'm actually looking right now to see where they stand. And with what happened yesterday, it wasn't pretty, but they're still in the #2 spot. Top 4 is fully fleshed out right now currently with DarkZero in the mix with Sonics, Space Station Gaming, and Oxygen. But other than that, the 2 blue arrows on Xset and Mirage, they're trying to move their way up, Jacob.
They are. I think Sonic's having a bye week or a bye play day for this play day was really good considering the loss that they had to Xset yesterday. So I wouldn't consider them in trouble of like any stretch of the imagination. They definitely look all right. I think OXG and Space Station in the top 2 looks great. OXG 4-0 with no overtime appearances. It's just
Sorry,
ridiculous.
Sonic's in the 3rd spot. I messed up. I apologize. Yeah.
No, you're all
nice.
good. You want to know what that makes it though? 6, 5, and 4. It means that if it's this close for like the top 4 spots to go to the November major, the rest of the way through this stage, oh my God, it's going to be close.
No, Jacob, it's even closer than that. An overtime win is 2 points. You still get 1 point for losing.
No, I know that.
No, but still, from TSM, or even if you want to be real, from Space Station Gaming all the way down, I mean, Beast Coast could take the top 4 spot next week, realistically.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, I guess they do now have a hole to get themselves out of. This is honestly a more interesting race to me, is the bottom 4 and not the top 5. Xset, Mirage, Astralis, and Beast Coast all with the same number of points. Beast Coast, I had them like 7th in my power rankings, and now they're dead last because of the amount of rounds they haven't won. That's kind of a big deal.
Who do you even pick? Like, from these 4 bottom teams, I feel like all of them have had really good performances. All of them have had their handful of bad performances. Like, I don't know which of these 4 teams I would expect to finish at the bottom when we get to the end of the stage.
I feel like we should have a pre-show discussion about this next week. Are you guys down?
Yes.
I'm down for it,
dude.
yeah.
Production, if you're paying attention, we're writing this down. We're going to have a talk about this. I think it's going to be juicy. But let's talk about what's happening next week for the matches as well, because I'm excited about this one. Oh my God. Jacob, do you see the first game of the day?
There's too many good games on this list. I'm going to have a heart attack.
This is a stacked list. Sonics versus DarkZero. Okay, all of us, we choose one that we like. Jacob, which match do you think is going to be an absolute banger?
I'll take one that's not the first game. I'll take the OXG SSG matchup because that's theoretically the #1 and #2 facing off against one another, so to speak. So that's going to be really cool to see. Is SSG finally going to give OXG a loss is my big question.
Jesse, what are you feeling, man?
I mean, Sonics have been sitting on an Xset loss now for over a week once we get to this point in the schedule. So I'm looking to that game versus DarkZero for them to bounce back and try to take down the undefeated DarkZero.
Undefeated. You sounded like an amazing Descos right there. But I think one of the most important games is going to be match number 2, Astralis versus TSM.
Yeah.
Because that's where Astralis really get to try to get their leg up in the power rankings while keeping TSM as low as possible. But one of the discussions we will have will be all around match number 4. We're going to highlight that. Mirage and Beast Coast. These guys are fighting to stay away from the bottom of the standings. And the loser of this is going to be feeling really bad by the end of the day. But fellas, I had a blast this week. I'm not going to lie. It's been fun. It's been full of surprises. Jacob, Jesse, we love upsets. And Xset did exactly that. We saw pop-offs. Thomas's his self interview because he's a strong independent pro player. Jacob, what was your favorite part about the week?
Honestly, it is that upset. I'm somebody who has been very critical of a team like Xset in the past, and we've got a lot of reasons to ride on Sonic's coattails, but I like an underdog story. I like it when somebody who hasn't found a lot of success manages to get themselves out of a hole that they've dug themselves, and Xset have done that over the entirety of the 2021 season so far. That win against the Sonics is a really good thing, and they're showing so much potential and improvement already from week 1 to week 2, but it's got to be more consistent. I'm going to keep on rooting for them, hoping that something manages to manifest from the effort that they've shown this week. But yeah, it was probably that upset from yesterday.
Jesse, what have you loved so far this week, man? I mean, from From an analyst standpoint as well, man, I would be popping
Okay.
off. You guys have been having a lot of fun here.
Okay, well, I say for an analyst point of view, the coastline games we've been able to get have been fantastic. We've really been able to explore this map and figure out how the changes have affected the different bomb sites and how teams like to hold it, how teams like to attack it. That's been a treat. From a fan point of view, the grand finale, Veli, of the whole week, DarkZero TSM, I don't think it disappointed. That was a very fun game we just watched, and the way it ended too, DarkZero with that hatch drop, I mean, come on. That's probably going to be the most hype moment of this week so far.
But dude, it was only right that it went to overtime, right? If it didn't go to overtime, I would have been so disappointed, especially because of the series before that, right? We wanted something good to close out the day. But for all of you beautiful people at home, we all want to thank you once again. This has been a blast. Here on the desk, we've been having a lot of fun. Jesse and Jacob, you guys already know the deal. Can't wait to see you guys next week. Kicks and Taro, Blue and Stokes, they've been doing a fantastic job so far. Shout out to production, shout out to AimLab, shout out to Riot, shout out to Predator as well. Without you
There you
guys,
go.
we wouldn't be here. But also, without the viewers at home, without them, we wouldn't even exist. So all of you beautiful people, thank you for tuning in every single play day. It's been so much fun. But next week, we're going to kick things off with Sonics versus DarkZero. I don't even have to say it. That game is going to be a banger. But we're going to close this down right now. Once again, have a great night, and we see you next time for more North American League action.